Let's see application. No. Yeah, this is the one that we were using yesterday. Okay. So we created this piece of code yesterday, and what it does actually, we have got two functions over here. So this is order function, which allows any customer to place an order on uh, some website which allows you to place orders. So this is a list that needs to be passed. For example, you want to order a laptop and then these many numbers of laptop, then where you want to it to get delivered, and then at what time it needs to be delivered. So this is the function that places the order. So basically what it does, it will first generate a unique identifier for order ID, and then it will calculate total price based on the number of items that were there, and those prices for individual items are listed in this particular dictionary. And then what we are doing, we are appending it to a data frame order underscore df that have information about all the orders. So it have customer id, order id, and then total price, and then these are the items, and then delivery address and delivery time. So all this information is here. But here what we are doing, we are passing refined parameters. So they this is a list, and then within this list there are two objects, right? But we might be interested in, let us say, if you just pass plain English, that I want to place an order for following item. Let us say I want one laptop, two smartphone, and one tablet, and then I ask what would be the total price, and then the delivery address is this, and then I want delivery by this particular date. And now we don't have this information. This structured information is not available with us. And then what we have done, we have actually requested OpenAI using chat completions URL and the same headers, and then this is the request body. And here this queue is the same prompt that I want to order these many things, right? And at the end, what I want to do, I want to get response back from LLM in this particular format, so that I can execute this function, order function. So how we can do that, we'll actually create a JSON schema, okay, and we'll pass that JSON schema over here. So in JSON schema, what we have, its type is function, and then it will now define what this function is supposed to do. So this function have name as order. So this is the same name. So we have created a Python function called order, and this particular function takes three parameters: items, delivery address, and delivery time. So these three parameters we will have to define, right? So here I have provided the description of that function. This function allows us to get a prompt from customer, and then we need to extract data in JSON format so that we can execute the function. So here I have defined each of those parameters. So this is of type object, and then these are the properties. So ordered items is a property. So this is ordered items, right? And for each of these elements, what we have item name, that is string, and then quantity, that is integer. So that's what I have defined over here, that ordered items is an array, and this is description of that particular array, that it is list of items. And then I have defined the properties of individual items. So it have item name and then quantity, and the information about them is listed here. And then we want more information such as delivery address. So that's what I have defined here. It needs to be string, and then this is description, and then this delivery time, it needs to be string, and then the time the order needs to be delivered. So these are the parameters that are required for order function. Okay, and that's what we have defined here. And then this required keyword, the purpose of this required keyword is so that we get from LLM back, we just get the uh, things that are required. For example, I just need quantity and item name, and I don't want any additional properties. Uh, so this is one response that we got from LLM. And above, I have created two functions. One is to place order, and then the other function is to delete the order. So deleting order means to cancel the order. And for canceling an order, what I just need order ID. So I will give a prompt something like this. I want to cancel my order for order ID this. Okay. And then when I send a request to LLM using this that um, prompt as uh, user message, then we will get back this response from LLM that uh, so here we have function keyword, and within function we have name, which defines which function should be executed. Actually, we have defined it here. So name of the function. So we have created two functions. One is to place an order, and then the other one is to delete the order. So this function, it have identified that this function needs to be called, and these are the parameters that we need to use for calling that function. So order ID and this particular order ID. And here we have defined the delete order function, which takes order ID and then it actually deletes those orders. Okay, that was from the last session. And now what I will do, I will actually uh, use this piece of code, and then I will create a um, web application using it.
So, is everyone on board with what's going on? Because this was from last night. It was just a recap of what we did in the previous session.
It helped. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. If there are no questions, then we'll proceed.
Yeah.
If I've been following all the sessions, I should be able to do the GA2 right easily.
Yeah, I mean, GA2 is not. There is a small aspect of GA2 probably in this, so that should not be an issue. But when it comes to the LLM parts, then these are mostly to do with GA3. But
Okay.
GA2, the only aspect will be
So Docker.
deploying this now as an application, and then we'll be packaging it into Docker. So that's the thing
Hmm.
that we'll be doing here.
Thank you.
But in case you didn't understand the workflow or what's happening, just feel free to open your mic and ask, okay? And then we can explain it.
No, conceptually, it seems clear. Like I've not attempted it because I was busy with some work. So, but
Yeah.
I hope I can do it today.
Okay, that's good.
Just one quick doubt I had on the delete order aspect. It says if the prompt or the text says delete this order ID, um, could it go wrong here? For example, the the text may have multiple things. It could match with multiple orders, and a wrong ID gets deleted.
Uh,
So
yeah, so that's a good question. We are not building a very robust application at the moment. The whole idea is to actually demonstrate this capability that GPT has, which is by taking natural language, can we convert the natural language into functions our application understands? So typically, what used to happen is there would be an interface between the application and the customer. So that interface would either be a website or some local application running on your phone or your computer. And these would be very precisely crafted so that the inputs from those front ends, as it were, they would precisely map to functions within our application, right?
Okay.
So, but crafting these things, first of all, takes a lot of time, lot of technical expertise. And the second problem is it needs to be maintained. Okay. And there are a lot of issues with that approach. Okay. It has worked well for the better part of 2 decades. But now, if I gave you an option between having two different types of interaction with the business, where A, you fill in all these details manually into this precisely designed site, or B, you just speak naturally as if you're speaking to a human being. So imagine you had like a personal assistant and you said, okay, I want you to go to Big Bazaar and just buy these items. And that's all you had to do. You spent like literally mm, maybe 5 seconds or 1 minute telling the PA what you wanted. Which approach would you prefer? Speaking to the person who's going to get it for you, or doing all these things manually?
Yeah, speaking works better. But
Yeah.
someone may say, I do not want this rather than using the word cancel. I don't know if the model, but as you said, it's not as robust. So probably
Yeah.
those things would be covered. Okay.
So
Okay.
the prompt will be organic. You can give any kind of prompt there. And because GPT is able to understand nuance and language semantics, we can put any kind of. So your application is not looking to respond exactly to these words. What we do is we send these words to GPT and ask GPT what function should we run and what are the parameters that are required to run. So that's what GPT will do for us. So in other words, it doesn't have to be phrased exactly this way. If GPT can extract and tell us what function are, so our application has a set number of functions. In this particular case, there are only two functions, but you can imagine a system where there are, say, 50 functions, but you want to interact in normal language to the system. And so an example we gave was like a travel agent, right? You go to a travel agent and say, I'm thinking of taking a holiday. Can you suggest me some places I can go to that is nice in the month of February? So then the travel agent may give you some options, but that actually would be a function in your system to find places that have high reviews for February travels, right? So if that's function is to run, but how do we get that from natural language? We are not able to do it, right? So that's what we do. We take the natural language question, send it to GPT, ask GPT, and the other thing we send to GPT. So we not just send the prompt or the question, but we also send GPT a list of tools that we are able to run. So we send both things. We send the customer's request and we send our application's capabilities to GPT as well. And we tell, look, GPT, this is what the customer is asking. This is what we are able to do. These are the functions we are able to do. Tell us which function we should run in order to respond to the request that the customer has given us. So GPT will look at that and say, yes, you need to run the function that uh, f- mm, fetches this exact data, which is places that are nice to go to, and the parameter is February, for example. And then what happens is it gives us that as structured information. It will be a JSON because we have instructed GPT give us structured information. And the structured information it sends back is name of the function and the parameters it should run. And that's exactly what we are doing.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so The same code. Now let's create a web application using it. So I think I will use Fast API. So, so
One thing.
yes, Anand.
Yeah. So what I was asking is, while you are using VS Code, and in VS Code you are using the Python file.
Yes.
Can we do the same thing using these, what do you call, uh, Python notebooks from Anaconda? Like the base environment will be Anaconda.
Yes, we can do it using Python notebooks, but then
Mhm.
I
No,
want
no, here
it.
also, here also.
Okay. Actually, what I want to do at the end, I want to execute this script using UV, right? And I think I won't be able to do that using Python.
Jiviraj, just one thing.
I
This
mean,
leaf,
sorry, if within notebook. So if I create a notebook, then I don't know how I will execute this. I will turn up this particular port number if I were to run it inside a Docker environment.
Jiviraj, just one thing. This leaf on your extensions, the left column,
Leaf, okay.
MongoDB.
MongoDB, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So just simply we will create a new file and app.py will be okay.
Yeah. So usually notebooks, the use case for notebooks is to create mm, interactive um,
Like
code, right?
one
So
use case I will share, in one of the companies I'm like working for.
I
So
think
what
Ritvik, let him complete what he's trying to say.
yeah, so normally notebooks are generally for interactive development, right? So you have code cells, and you are able to then execute various code cells to work out various aspects of your application. And then you're able to share it with others who are also able to then examine section by section the various interactive bits of your code. So you're able to it's a step up from just a single page or a single file application or a multi-file application. But it has certain limitations when you have a block like that, because you can't prescribe a defined order of execution in a notebook. Whereas in script files, they just run from top to bottom, or they follow some looping logic, or they follow some branching logic that's easy to trace through the program. So there's a defined way of running in a script. Whereas in notebooks, you have these code cells that may not necessarily be able to branch from one section to another section reasonably well, right? So from a development point of view, it's usually better to use notebooks just as a way of preparing or debugging your code or various aspects of your code. That's what I generally find. And then once it comes to production environment code, then you have to put it together into a fully functional application, which is what putting it into a script file like a .py file will do. So that's what I wanted to say. So yeah, Ritvik, you were going to say add something, or correct me if I'm wrong.
it is just like this only. Whatever you said is correct. That if you want to, for example, I want to create a pipeline to process some data, which is like huge data, right? But then I won't be able to do it on a continuous basis because it's being collected manually, but it's in a specific format. It is coming from Tally or some other software, right? And then I need to train somebody who does not have all this specific knowledge, but they need to process this data. They get the files, upload them into this Colab notebook, actually understand all the steps, debug if necessary, and process it in some Tableau or other data analytics tool, right? So I make this file with the entire pipeline with comments and debugging steps and everything, and they just take 10-15 minutes. to read through it and complete the work. Right. So I do not have to physically be there to actually explain the code to them or something. I've commented them and I've segmented the code with debugging steps and everything in the collab notebook itself. So in that way, it becomes very easy to kind of share the technical information with your teammates.
Yeah. So that's exactly right. So
So, Dwight,
in a collab,
so what? Sorry, Carlton. I just wanted I just wanted to know what he was saying. So you are saying that the collab file will be used along with the comments so that it removes the dependency of the person who has created it, and this.
so it's used in a shared development environment. In other words, so say for example, I'm working on a project and Jivraj is working on the same sort of project, but we're working on different aspects of it. Or Jivraj has a very high skill versus I have a very low skill. So he's, say for example, he's a senior developer and I'm a junior developer. What he can do is he can create this notebook with various code blocks that do a small specified function. Okay, and then he can add markdown to it, which is the key innovation in notebooks, which is you have these code blocks that run independently and you have markdown that goes with it, so that documentation is rich. um, and then he passes it on to me. I don't even have to know how the code works, right? So I can then read the markdown and see, okay, this code block will do this. It's almost like I can pretend it's a black box for me and then just hit the play button and it'll run that bit of code. Now you can see how this could be useful even with senior management, because what you can happen is, let's say you don't have a production ready software available yet, okay, but you're still in the development phase and you're going to test various functionality or bits or pieces of things that you want to test out, and you want to show your progress to senior management who don't understand code at all. So you'll say, okay, look, I've created, for example, this model. Just hit this play button, okay, and just above this model are some inputs you can give it to. So when you give these inputs in this top code block cell, just put your variables that you want to change here and then hit this play button. Then they are able to interact with your code directly without much technical knowledge. But that doesn't work in a production environment, because in a production environment you go back to traditional forms of running applications, which is there is a continuous flow of the program, right, where there's a start and end point. There are branching bits of code. It has to be able to do various things, react to various situations, respond to events that are occurring, that may happen asynchronously. So a lot of things happen continuously in a production environment that a Jupyter notebook is not designed to handle. The use case of a Jupyter notebook is completely different from the use case of running production environment code, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Ritwik. Thanks, Carlton. So app.py will make
Right.
dot
So
.py files will suffice whatever we
yeah,
are trying to do.
correct. So what we are going to do now is we used the Jupyter notebook because it was easy to as a teaching tool. Now we're going to take all that code, put it into actual running, fully functional program that doesn't require any manual intervention. And so it's going to set up. So in this situation, what Jivraj is going to do, he's going to actually set up a server that's going to host the application. So he's going to run a server, and then the application will be running on this server, and that will all be handled within this single file. And sometimes it can be multi-file as well, but the concept still remains the same. Even if it's multi-file, actually what happens on the back end is it looks at all the dependencies and the modules it has to import. It brings it all together into one cohesive package. The files are just there so that for our development purposes, it's convenient for us to debug. But once the application is running, it actually pulls in all these dependencies together and makes it into one fully coherent block of code that the machine can understand and run and execute.
Great, great, great.
Okay. So I will need to import request as well. So I will just mention it here. And then we will need to create a data frame. Okay, let's do that.
Jivraj, before you make it more complex, just at each stage, just run the server so that we know that at each stage it's working correctly, and students then also can understand what's happening as well. Run the application before you make it complex.
Oh, okay. You mean remove all this?
No, you can keep everything except the pandas data frame.
Okay.
Just one question, like these UV files can be packaged, but even the files with requirement.txt can be packaged as well, right? Or do they not work?
So UV, the major advantage of UV is similar to how, for example, Docker is a major advantage for deploying applications. With UV, you don't have to do anything except mention your dependencies. So with requirements.txt, what happens is you usually pip install things, right? So an environment has to be created, and you can create a pipeline that does those things. But the virtual environments have to be sort of manually managed, if I can use that word loosely. So what I mean by manually managed means there's got to be either a person dealing with it, or script has to be maintained to deal with the virtual environment. And once the virtual environment is created, it remains persistent on the system, right? So if you want to avoid all those issues where you have just the application file, okay, so just the py file, and not deal with importing the dependencies, not deal with disposing the virtual environment and creating the virtual environment. So then what happens is you're limiting the application's lifetime and its dependencies only to the time when it's running, right? As soon as it stopped running, you don't want any of those things sitting on your system anymore except the code. So that's what UV does. UV beautifully does that, where you just tell it at the top of the code block, these are the dependencies that this application requires. So when you send it off to someone, you don't have to worry about anything. Just you give the requirements at the top of your code block and just send your code. That person then is able to use UV, and it will handle everything from start to finish, where it will import the dependencies, it will create the virtual environment, run the application, and then when it's done, it will get rid of all those things as well. So then you don't have to worry about it. So a use case for it I'll give you is last term's project 2. We had nearly 700 submissions. All of them had completely different package requirements. All of them were designed on completely different operating systems, computers, had completely different setups, everything, etc. And what UV was able to do for us is we were able to just take only the GitHub code that they had given us, and then we were able to test all their applications one after another using a single script. And it was able to do that automatedly for all the 700 applications.
That's
So,
brilliant.
yeah, so I mean, it's amazing, right? Imagine the amount of time and effort it saves us. And we don't have to worry about code failure or any of these sorts of issues in the middle. So it's fantastic. It really supersedes pip install, if I could say. Yeah, carry on, Jivraj.
Jivraj, if it's okay, can you show once again? Like,
Yeah, sure. So this is the application that we have created, just initialization of application, and then I have created one route, and then so what that will do, it will just say print as in key and then value as in hello.
So what's happened here is he's created basically a server that responds to endpoints in your browser. And currently it's running on his local system. That's why it says localhost. And it's interacting at port 8000. So this IP address localhost can have thousands of applications running on it. But this particular application, we have told, okay, we want it to interact only on port 8000. So any incoming responses have to come on 8000, and any outgoing responses also will interact through that port. So the browser then, when you put localhost 8000, is uh, the system is the browser sending that request to that address localhost, which in this case is 000, or was in some systems it will be 127.0.0.1. And then it knows that, okay, it has to send this request to port 8000. What is the request? It's that you see that slash at app.get, the home directory. That's the request that it's sending. So it's sending a get request. But what's sitting at the end of that at that end of that endpoint when it reaches the destination, which is this application, is it will hit this function, define root function. And this function has a return value. That return value it sends back to the person who requested it. Who's the requesting person? It's your browser. So that's the workflow. It's exactly the way a web server works. This is, in fact, at its very fundamental, basic level, this is a minimalistic web server, which does nothing except say it returns a JSON that says hello.
Okay, so this UV icon is the same UV which we have learned over there in the
No,
first.
that is to run this particular server. So UVCon, it is not related to UV command line tool. So UV command line tool would run this application. It will install all those dependencies and then it will run this application. But UVCon is responsible for uh,
Running the
creating
web
this
server.
server and running the server on this particular port.
Okay, sorry, like I might sound very vague. So uh, this UV thing we will be installing in the terminal once we have written all these things.
Yeah, UV
Oh,
you would have to install.
okay. Like simply pip install UV.
Yeah, pip
Oh,
install
okay,
UV.
okay.
Okay, so now I will start copying from here. So I will first initialize the data frame to store the orders, and I will also have to import pandas. So I will have to put pandas in the dependencies.
The website for UVCon is uvcon.org, right?
I'm not sure about it. Mm,
I'm just saving it in my bookmarks for key tools, just for reference. But so just to be sure.
con- yeah, I think this is the one.
Okay. Python web server. Huh? What is ASGI?
ASGI.
By
I,
the way, Anand, it's not pip install, okay? It's a UV is a package you install using Python itself.
no, actually, it can be installed using pip.
Is it?
Like the
Yeah.
thing is the thing is while I was trying everything, when I just typed by mistake pip install, it installed by like in the terminal itself, in VS Code, and the total size was around 14 MB. So that's the only thing which I remember from GA1.
Mhm.
So I thought like where we are fitting that one. So okay.
Okay. So now I have initialized database. I will just import pandas. So here we have defined this particular order underscore df data frame. Okay. And now I want to be able to use this particular piece of code because I will get these variables from environment itself. So mm, how do I export a variable and import it and use it. What a variable from bash. So okay, I think I will have to use this. And the name of the token is AI proxy. And then I will also have to import OS. Okay. Okay, now let's test if this works. So in here, what I will do, I will return the token instead of message. And I will just export a dummy token over here.
Is it okay? You have not specified the token, so you can export anything.
Yeah. So I will just export a dummy token. Maybe this thing, hello from bash. And now whatever I have exported, I will have to use the same name. So I will change this to myWare and I will rerun the server. Okay. Now when I will hit this particular endpoint, then I should get that value that I have initialized. So hello from bash should appear. Let's check. Yes, it works. So we are basically exporting a variable into the environment, and then from environment it is picking up that variable so that we can use it inside the script. So basically this is to keep all those secrets hidden. So if I have if I have AI proxy token, then I don't want to keep it here. So I want to keep it out. So I don't want to keep it as in part of this script. So that's why. So what I will do now, I will just export my actual AI proxy token. So I will take this terminal to some other screen and
So why aren't we doing this on the terminal which is there on VS Code?
yeah, we can do that. Actually, they are same. So we can even export something from here because this is also a bash terminal only. Okay.
Bash
So
terminal, so you are running on okay, WSL Ubuntu, fine.
yeah, this is WSL Ubuntu. That's
So
why.
on Mac, will it be ZSH or like we need to change it from here?
I think
On
on
Mac, you can use whichever terminal you want. Mac by default has a ZSH terminal.
And
Yeah.
you do not even have to bother about anything in Mac. It runs natively.
Yeah. I mean, you can use, but you can, if you are more comfortable with Bash, you can install the Bash terminal for Mac and use just Bash also. So that
I'm
also is
not comfortable with anything, but
okay.
just that. So what I'm saying, like, will that ZSH will suffice whatever we are doing over here?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I
Okay.
mean, ZSH and Bash are very closely related in its capabilities. I mean, there are some minor differences, but they're just, they will run the same Linux commands without any issues.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
so Anand, we can even export it from here. And both of them are same actually. So I want. I mean, I'm not using that because I can get some extra space to write code, and terminal is running in some other window. That's it. So now I have exported the AI proxy token, and now I can bring it back here.
Maybe you could do split screen and then run both simultaneously if you want to. Like,
Mm, okay, let's do it in VS Code then. Okay, so now we have loaded the CA proxy token. Now what I want to do, I want to create the headers for the application, but that is part of request. Before that, I need to define these two functions that that are responsible for ordering something. So earlier I had this app.get, so which allows to make a request for get function on this a particular endpoint, but now I haven't mentioned at the rate app.get or something. So this would act as an normal function that is there in Python. And now I will also copy this function that allows to delete an order. And I will also have to import UID. So okay. And once I have all those functions, I will also need JSON. Okay. So now we have set up this application, and now I will define the functions that these functions that we need to send to OpenAI. So I will copy this from here, and it. So what I'm trying to do, I will send a request to OpenAI. Let us say this was the uh, prompt that we need to send. So actually, rather than keeping this prompt over here within this get function, we can pass the prompt from URL encoded parameter. So we can pass it in the URL itself, and then we can read that parameter, and then we can pass it to OpenAI from there. So these are the two functions that we are using. Okay, and this is the request part that is there. And okay, this seems to be correct. So before that, I will need URL to make a request. So copy from here, and then we'll also require headers, and the name of this particular token must match with what we have loaded from environment. So and this prompt would come from the parameter. So okay, later we'll put it in parameter. For now, let's keep it within this function itself. So at the very top, I will define this prompt, and I think this is all that we require. We have order function, we have a delete order function, and then we have this get method, and within get method we have this query, and then we have all these functions that needs will go to OpenAI, and then we'll get the response. Okay, now I will just return whatever comes in the response, and let's try this code. So I will do uv run app.py. Okay, now because JSON was not found in the package registry and you require JSON. Okay, I think JSON is pre-installed, so I will have to remove it. And is there something else that I need to mention? No. Bearer none is invalid. J is invalid compact GWS. Bearer none is invalid. Okay, why it is none? I have actually exported it. Let me check.
Where have you? Can you show the env file?
No, I don't have it in env file. It is, I have exported it from the environment itself.
Okay, maybe just put it in env.env file, or just exporting from the environment works, I guess.
Yeah, you can always view the path variable from environment anyway.
Okay, I will just unshare my screen and I will just check what is wrong with it. Echo $AI proxy. Okay. So what I have done, I have just exported the variable again, and now we can actually run this particular application. And let's run it. So and let's format it. So yeah, it is getting us this particular thing that we need to call order function, and then these are the arguments that we need to use. Okay, so now I will actually copy the code that is required to update order underscore df. So this is what, okay, so here we have, I want to get these arguments. So these are the ordered items and these individual items we need, and then delivery address and delivery time. These are the three things that we need to get. So this particular piece of code would get the argument. So this is the argument keyword, and whatever is the value to this argument, we will get it using this piece of code. So it actually first goes to choices. So it goes to this choices, and then within choices it gets to zeroth index, so which is I think this one, and then within zeroth index it goes to tool calls. So this is tool calls, and then within that also we need to go to zeroth index, and this nesting, when we'll hit arguments, it will have this particular segment of response, and then we can actually call the order function, and then we can place an order. So now I will copy this piece of code from here to the application, and then I will also need to have function to be called. And now, based on what function it needs to call, I will have, if it needs to call order function, then we will get which all items that needs to be ordered and these things. So I will get these information from argument. Okay, what is that? And now I have all these arguments, so I can actually call this function. But for that, I also need customer ID. So I will manually set it to 1 for now, and maybe later we can change it. I mean, we can even make it dynamic. But for now, I will just keep it 1. And then I will actually make a call to this particular function, which takes these items, and then it takes delivery address and then delivery time when it needs to be delivered. And let us say we want to return that order placed successfully. So now whenever I go back here, and then first I will have to rerun UVCon server, I think. And now I will just refresh this particular page. And okay, internal server error. Let us check. Prices is not defined. Okay, so prices is the dictionary that I need to copy from here, which defines prices of every single item. Okay, let's rerun. Internal server error. Okay, prices is not defined. Okay, I have just defined prices. Oh, okay. It needs to be in the global. Um, oh, it got stopped. So I will again start, and I will just use this. So I will have to define prices over here instead of defining it inside this function, because this order function is outside, so that's why. And now I think it will work. Oh yeah, order placed successfully. So actually, instead of returning order placed successfully, I will instead print the data frame order underscore df.
You guys, what was the error? I missed that part.
Okay, so the error was what was the error? Yeah, I haven't defined the prices. So this
Okay.
prices dictionary I didn't
But,
define
but
it.
after that also there was some error, na? And you said that you changed the order of that order function or something. In what way did you change it?
No, there was no error with order function.
Okay, okay.
Error was with this prices not being found. Okay, so now let's print this order underscore df as well. So it should have now printed order df. Oh, I will have to first rerun this server. And let's make one more request. And this time it should print the order df. So yeah, this is the data frame that it have got created. So this acts as a database at the moment.
Like if we can have a recap of the like the body where everything should be placed on a fly, if that's okay with.
Yeah, sure. So these two functions that are
No, no, from the
essentially.
starting, like where the things will be put. Like first, we will this fast API thing which we have copied from there, and then the global variables which are there, like the one which is going to start order df pd dot data frame, like the sequence I'm trying to get. uh, like where everything should be pushed from the starting.
Yeah. Okay.
Mainly with the logic, right? That the script tag is there for handling dependencies with UE. And then when we start with the imports, fast API we are doing for API, request is for the requesting which we'll do, and and then pandas is for handling data, OS is for the getting the
No,
environment
no,
variable.
these are like the explanation of the steps, not the steps. What, like, where should each step will go? Because while we are looking at the while I'm comparing it with the collab which we have explained yesterday, so I'm trying to know where each one of them the calling should be fitted here. So so the things, the functions which or the variables which have been explained, I am able to get that, but where it should be placed in order to run the app.
So the application itself works by calling the appropriate function whenever the endpoint is hit. So depending on the flow of the application only depends on which endpoint is being used. So in this case, if it's being used, if the order endpoint is being used, then it will it will go to the appropriate function that executes. The rest are all just function definitions.
Okay, small thing, if Jivraj, if you can go down.
Ooh, I think he has lost connection.
Yeah, maybe. So what I was asking is, for example, there was some get thing down there
Correct.
before localhost. So what codes we need to put after the get, and what we need to put above that? So I was confused with that. So
Okay.
whatever we want to get in that black screen, we need to put it after the get.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, Jivraj, can you just show not the functions themselves, but if you go, yeah. So this is the bit, right? You're talking about.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay, okay. Yeah. So this function, okay, yeah. So the prompt is typically what will come through whatever interface you're using,
Mm-hmm.
and then this is the functions that have to be defined for OpenAI to work correctly. And then scroll down a bit. So again, these are just definitions. Keep going. Oops. Yeah. And then once he has defined the function, he defines the URL, the header, and these are all required in order to make a response. So this is the request post then he uses. So he sends the URL, the header, and the JSON that is before defined before this into the post, and then the JSON body itself will have these elements that are required, because this is the structure that AI proxy requires in order to work correctly. And the functions themselves are sent as an argument into the tools key, if you look on the dictionary over there. And eventually it goes to the once you get the response back, then what is happening is he's pulling out the details from the response. So if you look on there carefully, it says response.json. That is coming as a result of the request we have made to OpenAI. So he's just parsing that JSON that he gets back, storing it in arguments, and parsing the JSON to get the function to be called. So that comes out of the response. And finally, you get an if block which deals with what. So when once we get a function, we need to map it to something in our application, right? So that's what he's doing next, which is he's mapping the response to the application to the function that the application should run. And then he's returned once that appropriate function is running, it has been run, then it returns a response to the user. So that's the workflow. Does that help?
Thanks. Thanks. So while he has got the JSON file response.json, this import dot, like this, the last thing, if double dunder's name
Yeah.
will print it on the port number 8000.
No, 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 no. This no, no. So the if underscore name main, that is an entry point for your application. So what happens is when the Python interpreter runs, if it finds that this, so what Python interpreter does is it just goes from top to bottom, looks at everything that's there in the file, but it won't run that last block unless this is the starting point of the unless this file is the starting file of the application. See, in a multi-file situation, you would have many different modules that are coming together. So Python interpreter won't know where to start your application from. So that if dunder dunder name dunder dunder equal to main, what that tells the interpreter is, if this particular file was the starting file, then run this block of code, meaning that this is the actual starting point of the application.
Can we think about it this way? That this is the main file. Run this one.
Yeah. Did that help, or you're confused about the dunder dunder underscore
No,
name?
no, no. I was able to get whatever was this. Thank you, thank you,
Okay.
thank you.
I mean, what happens? Okay, the other
Carlton, can
thing
you
also.
explain it again, please? I was not able to get why if main is equals to main starts the
Okay,
execution of file from that
right.
point.
So what happens is, see, normally an application won't have a single file, correct? It'll have multiple files in many places. So when you run your application, once it puts all the files together and all the definitions, function definitions, and things of that nature, the interpreter itself uh, will store a variable, okay, called underscore name. This, the interpreter itself will create this variable under dunder dunder name dunder, okay. And what it does is, in that name, it will label this file as main, even though it's called app.py. Okay. Sorry, just give me a second.
Okay, okay,
Okay.
got
And
it.
once it labels that, the interpreter, then you know, it if it finds, so then as it's executing, it will say, okay, if name is equal to main. So it knows that this particular file app.py has been given this variable called main. So it knows that this is the entry point where to start the application from. And so it will run this block of code that you put in. So the first thing it will actually execute is this import uvcon, and then it will run uvcon.run, and it will start the server. So that's how the application knows this is the starting point of the application.
Okay, okay. Now I got it. I mean, it will first name the file, this file, app.py, as
Yeah.
the main file, and then it will execute it first. So whatever files that are present apart from main app.py will be executed later, also or according to the instructions provided in app.py.
Yeah, because that's right. Because what happens is, initially it just pulls up all the information that's required for all the dependencies, all the things that a multi-file application needs, right? But then it needs to know where the starting point is, and the way it knows that is, the interpreter labels the starting file as main, and it stores that as a variable. That variable is called dunder dunder name dunder dunder. And so then the application knows it has to start at this particular file. This is the starting point of your application.
Okay, got it. Sorry for taking your time.
I think you're on mute, Jivraj.
Oh, sorry. What I was saying, I have moved this functions uh, variable to the global space so that let us say we create multiple endpoints. One is for ordering, and let us say I create another one that is for uh, canceling the order. So the visibility to this particular functions should be available to both of them, right? Because every time we want to make a request to OpenAI, and the only thing that gets changed is this particular prompt, but functions needs to be same. So instead of putting it inside this order endpoint, I have made it a global variable. Okay, and now let's execute it again so that making it a global variable
So
doesn't.
global variable is just basically you are putting it outside of any of the functions, huh?
Yeah. I'm putting it outside any other function, outside the space of this endpoint. Okay, now let's make a request to this endpoint, and again we got order placed successfully, and we are also getting the details of order. Okay, now what I want to change, I want this as a query parameter. So whatever I put over here, that must come to application. So q is equal to this particular um, prompt should go in the query. So I have forgot how to do that. Is it available in GA2? Mm,
Jiraj, is it okay if you can increase the font little bit, like two?
okay,
Yeah,
over here and over
here,
here.
here, 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 here.
Okay, what was the way to actually pass parameters to it? I don't exactly know. So, mm, response get, and okay, let me ask GPT. How do I pass URL encoded parameters to a fast API application server? Okay, this needs to go something like this. Okay, let's try this out. And over here, I need to pass comma, and then it, instead of name, it should be Q. And yeah, it is a string. Okay, let's try this out. I think this would, okay, should it be here? No. It should not be here. It needs to go here inside. Okay, Q should be a string. And now let's try this out. So now instead of keeping this particular prompt here, I will remove it from here and I will put it inside the request itself. So I will rerun the server, and then I will copy the same prompt from this notebook, and I think this is the prompt that I need to copy, and I will put it here, and let's make a request. And in the response we have got order placed successfully. Now let's have a look at this particular thing. So over here also we have got that so it is now printing the current state of order underscore df. So it
So
is actually
Jivraj,
making a yeah,
the
Anand.
STR thing which you have wrote,
Yes,
you removed from there and then you replaced it with only STR here.
yeah, str is to define the data type. So this Parameter q, it is
No,
a string.
what you searched, then you wrote a line, then you removed it, and then you wrote str over here. For example, the things which you have searched over there, you're like, if you can go to that search where you have made the search.
Oh, over here.
Yeah. So here, okay. So you replaced with category equal to or the q equal to str. Then
Yeah,
you
yeah.
removed that part and then you moved it to where?
So over here in this piece of code, what is happening? It is creating the instance of application, and then it is creating a route for get request to this particular endpoint. And then these are the two query parameters that will get passed. Okay. So uh, like this, you can pass those two variable parameters. So instead of passing query over here, we can pass name over there, and name will be, let us say, Jivraj, and then let us say there was one more category, so I will need to put an ampersand over here, and then category would be um, let us say TA, or rather a student. So these are the two parameters that I can pass if I am using this piece of function, right? So these are the two parameters that I can pass in the get request. And then I'm also defining the type of that variable. So let us say instead of a string, it is some integer. Let us say category is 11. Then it must be integer. Instead of str, it should be int over here.
That things, those things like will be situation dependent. What I'm asking is, if you like, if we'll go to the VS Code.
Wait a second. I will just restore this prompt. Yeah.
Uh, so async def root q str.
Yeah.
And what it was over there, like if you can go to chat GPT.
Okay.
Okay, 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 okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so so name wasn't required. We just had only one prompt which was to be passed. So that's why we limited ourselves. Q equal Q. Q is relation to string. Like category string is written over there. So we have written Q string over there because we need not to pass two arguments. We just kept it to ourselves. We just kept it limited to only one argument over there.
Yes, yes. That is the only
Oh,
argument that we need to pass to LLM, right?
okay, okay. And that root
So
thing, like we have get items over there, I think. Uh,
root thing. We can make it anything. See, even if you change it to, let us say,
okay,
my
it's
name,
simply
it doesn't matter.
okay, 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 okay. It's simply like the function, whatever you want to name it. Okay,
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's a function name. So it's,
okay, okay.
see, the app.get uh, is a what is typically called a wrapper. Okay, it's a wrapper around your function. So the reason it's called a wrapper is because the server will get uh, um, triggered when it sees this slash order in the URL. Okay, but then it doesn't know which function to run when it sees the slash order, right? It has to search through your code. Your code could have 50 different functions, but it doesn't know which function to go to. So so what at the at symbol app dot get does is, it says if you get this particular trigger called slash order, then run this function that is below. And the function is defined here, is called so the async is just a keyword to say that we will accept asynchronous calls. But the def in this case Jivraj, this function name is Jivraj, and it takes an argument called q, which is the variable name, and that argument is of type string. So, but where will get this q from? It will come as a part of that endpoint called slash order. Does that help?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
Thank you, thank you.
should I create a tunnel for this?
Um, No, there's no need to create a tunnel because you want others to try it, is it?
Yeah, if
Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, that's a good thing. Everyone on this can then actually access your server directly and send queries. Of course, it might crash your system because we are not designed robust error handling, right? So they'd have to send clean queries into it. But it would be interesting, yeah. So
And should
everyone,
I also print the prompt that I get from
yeah,
Stube?
yeah, you can send back the prompt, right? And yeah, you can print the prompt they send as well, so we know what they're sending.
Yeah. Okay, let's create a tunnel then.
So this is the very excellent demonstration of deployability. Okay, you've got something running, it's working. Now you want to show it to your boss. Your
Okay,
boss
what
is,
are we doing here now? I actually
sorry.
went away for 2 minutes.
Okay, he's just deploying his app on through ngrok so that all of you can actually send it a query now.
Huh. Okay, so we have the app as it was, but now we're just using it in Grok.
Yeah.
Yes, and then later we will create a Docker
Yeah.
file.
So please send clean queries, okay? As in, it can have different things in it, but just make sure that it matches the items that we actually have in our quote unquote database, okay?
Okay,
Because we
how did
haven't.
you start with the ngrok? Can you like just revisit it?
Yeah, it's already installed on the system, right? So
Yeah, that is fine. But like, what did you do to run it?
how to install? You'll have to watch
Well,
another session
No,
for.
no, no, not that. How did Jivraj run it? He must have done it in 1 or 2 minutes, right?
Yeah, just one line he wrote, right? He wrote ngrok.
And cronk
So
hyphen http hyphen. Okay, I will redo it.
yeah,
And this is the uh, command that I
you
run.
can put. Sorry, could you copy the queue? But I mean that one example in the chat so we can modify that.
Sure, sure, sure.
yeah. I
Thanks.
mean, see, the thing in the query is you don't have to send exactly that query. What you do is as long as you have the items that we have in our database, which is a tablet, a laptop. What's the other thing, Jivraj? Tablet, laptop, and something else was there, right?
Our tablet, laptop, and a smartphone.
And a smartphone. As long as you send only those things, and you send an address and when you want it, then as long as you have those details in your query, it doesn't matter how your query looks like. Okay, but
The
those
what was the endpoint? It was only Q, only Q, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
Q is the
Yes, yeah. Okay.
parameter.
So how do we structure is it? What I'm thinking, we can put those words anywhere, like Q is equal to laptop one, comma one, or something like
Mm.
that, or 3199.
Yeah,
How
you
do
can
we?
change the wording of the prompt.
And I can't. Is the prompt copied in chat somewhere?
Mm. I mean, it need not to be same prompt. You can actually change this prompt. Let's say I want to place an order. Maybe I can remove this and
Oh,
uh,
okay.
you can change this prompt as well. So it must have these. So you must order
Anywhere in.
laptop. Yeah, yeah, it can be
Yeah,
anything.
yeah.
You can
Okay,
put address
I got
above
my
and
answer.
then some other thing below.
Okay, I did. Okay, it's the item, the address, and the quantity. Okay.
Small thing, like when I tried putting q equal to inverted commas and I pushed laptop, it is showing error like
Yeah. Q and then inverted comma.
yeah. So we need to put in the arguments using inverted commas, if I'm getting it correct. Q after q equal to inverted commas laptop. So that's how we need to use this website which you have sent, or the tool which you have sent.
No, no, just pass the query directly. No need to put any inverted comma or anything.
Oh, okay, 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 okay. So that only requires tablet.
I think, Jivraj, if you can show a demonstration of sending just a query, that will help.
Lot of internal servers.
Hmm. That is LAPTOP. Okay, if you are using a laptop and these things, tablet, so make use of capital words.
Okay, okay, okay.
I mean, first letter should be capital.
Jivraj, in your browser, right, just show an example of a query that a person could send.
Okay, so you can create a query like I want to place
No,
an
no, no.
order.
Just no, in your browser itself, in the browser. Yeah.
Okay, so this is ngrok URL. I will just go to this particular URL and then I will append backslash order. That is where I want to make a get request, and then I will pass a URL encoded parameter. For that, I will put a question mark and then the name of that parameter, and then I will put a equal to, and the prompt I have just copied from here itself. Actually, it is not required. You need to put these codes and these things. So I will just copy this particular prompt and then it would work. Let's go. And I will have to get visit this particular site. So now
So,
it's
so what others can do is one by one. Maybe you can show your screen, and then we can look at what you're sending as well.
I'm ready. Shall I share?
yes, yes, you can share.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, it is visible. Need
Let's look at
laptop
it.
to Chennai and
Can I address by today? But not
instead of today, just try to keep a date first Feb.
maybe I'll just say first so that I should add first.
Uh, okay, first of which month?
First, first.
Okay, what is internal server error?
I'm also getting this. Yeah, like I am also writing something like please deliver, or like I want to place order for laptop, deliver it to 10 Downing Street by 14th Feb. It's not really working.
Okay, just give me 1 second. I will change few things. And okay, can you try now? Just send one request.
It's not working. Can you try my link? It's working on your system.
Hmm.
Jivraj, are you there?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Your screen's not visible. Maybe you can share your screen so we know what's going on.
Okay, I'm changing few things. For example, instead of using request, I'm now trying to use HTTPX so that parallel requests can be allowed. Is my screen visible?
Yep.
Yeah, so in request, I have so instead of using request library, I'm now trying to use HTTPX module, and I think that might work because it will start sending requests parallelly.
Okay, so request does not allow parallel requests.
Yeah, it won't allow you to send multiple requests at the same time. And I think I will need to put await keyword, right?
Uh-huh. If you do await, it should still allow for multiple requests, no? I think.
But request module doesn't support multiple requests at the same time.
Oh, didn't know that. Thank you.
Oh,
Wait, what's that?
mm, okay. Can you try now? Response cannot be used in await. Okay, GPT have given me this piece of code. Let me try this out. Maybe it might work.
Okay, so instead of async calls, right, we can just do normal requests for now.
Hmm. Okay, now I am able to make a order. Can anyone else try? I think now it might work. Oh, again, it didn't work. Response.json. Maybe let me print response.json. Okay, it plays one order here.
Done, it works. Thanks.
But I don't know why this error is there. Maybe it is because of incorrect query. But
Can you show your query? Can you like paste your query in the chat? Because like I'm doing it, it's not really working.
Yeah, for me,
or maybe it is problem with my application itself. Tool
oh, it
underscore
worked
fonts.
once and now it's back to error.
Okay, let's.
Okay, now I'm getting null response.
That's because I have I have stopped sending any response.
Okay.
So I just want to look at what all requests are coming. So in this particular request, what time do you want to order on this particular date? Oh, okay. It is asking for the time. It looks like you want to order a laptop, but I need more detail. How many laptops do you want to order? What is the delivery address to the order, and what time do you want the order to be placed?
So, Jivraj, maybe you can add a little bit of extra code which says if the response is not the JSON that is expected, then send that response back to the user instead of you know crashing out.
Okay, yeah, we can do that. And I think if so, now what I want to provide. Mm, so this lies within, I think, choices. It is a zero, and then within message, it's content. Okay, within message, it is content.
I guess the important question is how do you differentiate between a prompt coming back and a um, function, sorry, a JSON function response coming back? How do you differentiate between the two? So one of them, see, all of them have messages, but one will have tool calls and the other one is presumably does not have tool calls, correct?
It have choices. I think choices is correct. Then zero the index, and then message it have, and then I think this is content. And let's if
Yeah. So the key over here is if it has tool calls or not, right? If tool calls is present, then you know it has made the right. It has given a function to as a response. If tool calls is not present, then you know it is a prompt that's coming back.
and I think I can put not of tool. Oh, what else we okay not.
Also, one more thing, Jivraj. Did you, in your message, did you put the system message that you had last yesterday? Because we had a similar problem yesterday. You know, in
Yeah, system message we have
yeah, okay. So you can put one more thing there, maybe if
in system message.
yeah. So there are two ways to deal with it. One is we can create a third another function, which is if parameters are not present, then run this function. So then it's a very clean way of dealing with it. But for now, we will stick with this and check if a tool call has come back or not. If a tool call hasn't come back, then we can send back the prompt to the user.
Okay, so I think this would work then. Okay, I think I think now it will work. So the same prompt where it failed. Yeah, this is the prompt.
Don't send just the JSON, the full JSON. Send back the message itself. Yeah, message content is okay, I think. One more thing is also if we don't need time, right, in our date time delivery thing. So you can say if time is not present, ignore, or something like that. You can make your prompt a bit more robust.
Yeah, yeah, that can be made, but for now, let's just stick to this, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so now I will make one. Hmm. This is the prompt that I am using, and I think I can use this one maybe. Okay, it's still not working. It says this particular key is not present. I'm not sure how to do this. Maybe this might work now. If it doesn't work now, then I will just go ahead and create a Docker application, a Docker container.
Hmm.
Okay, okay. I don't exactly. Maybe removing this might work.
Have you intentionally kept that space after apostrophe for two scores? If, yeah.
Jivraj, just as a matter of curiosity, shouldn't it be in keys of the response? It's not if tool calls in, because it's got to be a key, right? Dot keys, I think, is the reason for the error. Normally,
Uh,
dictionaries have dot keys.
okay. Okay. I think even we can look for the key of dictionary by in this way.
Okay. I've not tried it this way. Usually, I explicitly mention dot keys.
Okay, okay. Then let me use dot keys then.
Jivraj,
Yeah.
I just placed an order and it is showing the message that it has been placed successfully.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So it have some problem with the error handling part that we haven't implemented correctly. It is not going to this particular
The key
piece
error
of
says
code.
tool calls and you set tools calls, but that in the terminal it's tool calls and we have a tools.
Is it tool calls? Oh, okay. And also it should be not in, right? Okay, now it's sending response.
Now it is working. It shows that I need quantity of the laptop you would like to order. Please, could you please provide the information?
Work for me
Okay,
also.
great, great. Then now it handles all those errors. So if there is something that needs to be that is required, then it will ask for that. Okay, great, it works now. Okay, so now we can create a Docker application. I will just turn off this tunnel.
Fantastic. It's fantastic.
Order placed successfully.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's interactive as well. So even if something is wrong with the order, it prompts you back to correct your order. So that's really good.
Okay, now let's create a Docker file, and I think it's Dockerfile, and I will go to GA2 again, and there was code for it, so I will just copy that code, and this piece of code, and over here I will have to change few things. So over here it's using Python, and then what it is doing, it is setting up a working directory, and that is base bash backslash app within container, and then it will uh, run this particular command that will create app.py inside container with this particular so it will have this code. Okay, I mean print hello world will be the line of the code. Okay, let me just mm, create that application over here.
But that would add files to your app.py, right? Or may even
Hmm?
wouldn't it overwrite your app.py?
No, it won't override my app.py. That is because it will
It won't.
create a file within container, right?
Okay, within the container. Okay.
Yeah. So now we have this particular file, and now all I need to do, I need to run this piece of command, right? Or rather this one. No, first I will have to build the image. And so what we are doing over here, this dot tells us where it should look for Docker file. So it will look for the Docker file in current working directory.
And what does py hello mean?
And py hello is a tag, so it can be anything. We can even, so this is just to identify this particular image. So when
Okay,
you are
okay,
searching on Docker, then
okay.
you can use these tags.
Hmm.
So you can
So
use TDS hello or something that.
TDS,
It's like Podman build tags TDS hello, so that slash t maybe is for tag. Then dot you do something like that.
yeah, and dot is for telling that where your Docker file is present.
In the current directory.
Yeah, it is present in the current directory. That's why I'm just using dot.
Okay, okay,
If it is some other directory, then I will just pass the path of that directory.
okay.
So now I think it will build the image. Yeah, it have successfully built that particular image, and now we can actually run this particular uh, image. So it is searching for this particular tag, right? So it is trying to identify this image using the name of the tag, and then it will open. It will run it inside a interactive shell, and I will need to pass bash over here. So now
Oh,
what
wait,
I
you changed the tag, right? It's TDS hello now.
oh okay yeah, it's TDS hello.
And why Bass at the last?
Bash is to open it in this terminal. So if I look over here, then we have this app.py, right? And it have changed the location, right? So whatever the container got created. So container, you can think of it as is it as an virtual environment or something, virtual machine kind of thing, and it have its own resources. So I need to go to its uh, directory, and then I should be able to use its terminal. So that's why I have put bash over here. So basically I'm trying to access the resources of the container that we created.
So Javiraj, I'm forgetting one thing. Like we open VS Code, we obviously have WSL available in the terminal, right? And how are we entering this WSL Ubuntu thing? Do we like do it via the terminal and doing code in the WSL terminal, or how do we enter it?
Yeah, I entered code dot in WSL terminal.
Okay, so you in the WSL terminal you did do this and you enter directly in this remote WSL window.
Yeah, yeah.
So irrespective of the terminal environment, we have to write the bash at last.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's so that Podman knows what terminal to use in order to run it interactively. Because see, Podman is doesn't know what resources to use. Right? There is a container available. You say you want to interact with it, and you want to use a terminal to interact with it, but it needs to know what terminal you're going to use to interact with it. So here we are saying we want to use the bash terminal to interact with this virtual. I don't want to use the word virtual machine, but that's effectively what it is. This Docker image is going to be running inside what is effectively a miniaturized virtual machine.
Okay.
And so to access this virtual machine, normally to access computers remotely, you would either use SSH or some sort of remote login client or something like that, some application you would use, right? But in this particular case, we are going to interact with it using an interactive terminal. And Docker is able to handle all the network connections in such a way so that we don't have to worry about all those things. Only all it needs to know is how we are going to connect to it. So our interface to this virtual machine is this bash terminal that we are saying. And so that's why if you look in the terminal, it has opened up actually a new terminal. I know it doesn't look like that. Where it says Jivi at laptop, that is actually another terminal, as in the terminal sitting inside WSL. But the new terminal that is inside the virtual machine, or this Docker image, I should say, is what you see root, add something. So whatever you do inside here does not affect anything in his WSL, does not affect anything in his Windows environment, because it's now you're actually interacting with this machine inside that Docker image. And so you're even if you delete everything or destroy it, it will make no difference to the external environment that it is sitting inside. Was that clear?
Kind of little bit. Thank you. Thank you.
I think maybe a little bit later after he finishes this, I'll just do on the notepad. I'll just show you what's actually happening, because it's a bit difficult to understand when looking at this terminal like this, right? So
What is the build command? What is it like? Podman run build t something?
yeah. That what that will do, that will use this particular Docker file, and then it will create a container using it.
Huh.
So it will
Okay.
install Python in that container, and then it will set up a directory, that is app directory. So that is the directory where I am right now in, and then it will create a file. It will just basically run this particular piece of code, and then what it will do, it will create an app.py file which will have print hello world, right? So if we just have a look at this, and cat app.py, it have print hello world, right? And then what it does, it will execute the file. So when you execute a particular file app.py, then it should print this hello world, right? So instead of opening it in an interactive shell, I will just run this particular um, image, and it should say hello world, right? That is because it had this particular command that asks it to run this particular file. So now this was a basic example where it created a hello world basic hello world, a print hello world application, right? But what we want to copy all this code, and it needs to be present inside the Docker, so that we can Docker image, so that we can execute it using UV. So instead of here it is Python app.py, it should be UV space run, and then there should be 3 commands. Okay, and there is a way to copy, and I think how do I copy a file from local directory to um, Docker container. Um, Specify it in Docker file. I think it is copy command, and let's see. Yeah, it is copy command, and this is how we can copy it. Copy a file from local machine to a container. Okay, and let's do that. And what is name of the file? It is app.py. .py, and where do we want to copy it? We want to copy it to this particular working directory, and this is the command that we want to run at the end. So now I will rebuild this image. I will do podman build, and then what was the other thing? Podman build, and the tag is TDS hello. Okay. No context directory, no container file specified. Okay, I need to build it from the current working directory. It have copied. Okay, now I will run this particular Docker image that we have just built. Podman run, and I want to run it inside a interactive shell, and name of that particular image would be it can be identified using this particular tag, and then I want to use bash terminal, and it have app.py. Now if I look for the content of app.py, it must have this whole code. Okay, so basically what this piece of code have done, it have actually installed Python, and then after installing Python, it have set up a working directory, and then it have copied whatever was the content of this particular file was there into the container directory, and then it will run this particular command. But now the problem is we haven't installed UV, right? Actually, we only have installed Python. We haven't installed UV. So that's something that we need to do now. I'm okay.
Hey,
Install.
Jiviraj, do we also get some discount on ChatGPT?
Discount in the sense?
Like in Perplexity, we are getting 1 year free. So is there any student program with ChatGPT?
Mm, I am not aware about that. Carlton, do you have any information about it?
No, I have not heard of any discount program available for us.
Yeah. So installing UV, you use one of the above images with UV pre-installed, or install UV by copying the binary from official installed Docker image, and this would copy it from over here. I think this would work, I guess. And UV installer, or run the installer and then remove it. I think these are the things that I need to, and ensure the install library is in this particular path. Okay, I think to install UV, I think we need to run this piece of code, and this is some other version of Python. So let's just copy this piece of code from here to this Docker container. Hmm. So within this Docker file, we are specifying the Python version that it needs to install, and then it will do a curl, and it will try to first update everything. And I think this will install curl command, and then using curl, it will install the script for UV, and then it will run this particular script, and then it will set the path variable. And I think this would now work. So I will rebuild. Copying hub. So right now what it is doing, it is executing each of these commands step by step. So I think there are 8 steps: 1, 2, 3, and then 4, and then this is 5th, this is 6th, this is 7th, and then this is 8th. And at the end, it will just run uv run app.py. And this have copied. Okay, now let me. Okay, now it have built the image. I will now run that particular image. Podman run, and then TDS hyphen hello. Yeah, I think it is working. It's
Yeah.
running the application, but we won't be able to interact with that application
Yeah.
because we will have to do port mapping. So, oh, I don't know why it was. How to exit it? I started running and installed packages. Oh, it have finished installing packages now. Okay, I don't think we will be able to interact with it. Yeah, it says connection is not found. That is because whatever is this Docker, it is running inside Docker. So we don't have access to those port numbers outside Docker. So we'll need to map those port number. And now I will open. So this is TDS project page. They have mentioned how we can actually map the port numbers. Where is Podman run? Yeah, this is the one. And okay, cancelled. So here what we are doing, we are again running the same image, TDS hello, and then we are passing the environment variable. So here we are passing environment variable from our local system. So instead of API proxy, AI proxy token, I'm passing AI proxy, and then in Docker container, it should be accessed as AI proxy only. And now we are giving the port mapping. So it will map 8000 port with the 8000 port of my WSL. Okay. So now I think we will be able to access it. Oh, okay. Run created failed, unable to start container process, execute file not found underscore path.
Probably you have to specify the path like you did in the current directory. Podman run TDS hello dot and maybe like that.
No, that is to build, right?
Okay.
Found in dollar path. Do we need to put over here something? Okay, before doing that, I can go to the. I think I will need this. Ensure the installed binary is on path. Binary path. docker run hyphen it and then TDS hyphen hello, and it should have bash. Okay, and now we have this over here, and echo dollar ATH. Ensure the installed binary is on path.
For now, you could just export the variable here itself. But it's sitting in your external environment, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think this path is creating an issue, I think. This doesn't look correct to me. No, it should be path for. So see this I've just copied it 5 or 6 times. I don't know how many times. This is same thing, but it should be path for this UV, right? What is this
You
path?
can check, is the which command running? You can check which UV on there. Just type which UV, see where it is.
Normal. है तो it's
Hmm.
already there in the path somewhere there. Root local bin, and inside of it is there is UV.
What you can do is copy that error into GPT and see what the reason for that error is.
This piece of code
Yeah, yeah.
and along with Docker file, is it?
No, no, no. You can. Yeah. Well, first check what this tells you. Then we can put the Docker file.
But this does not seem helpful. But,
Placed before the E and the P options.
okay.
Oh, is it? Okay, okay. So you have to put the image name afterwards, is it?
I'm not sure. Okay, let's try this. And let's map it to 8000 of my machine.
Well, it's not causing an error now.
Okay, yeah. So maybe we need to change this
Yeah,
thing in project page.
might be, might be.
Yes, it have installed all those packages. Okay, let's open it now. I think it will open. Okay, now let me go to order, and yes, and then it must have queue, and let's place a order. Oh, internal server error. Read timeout.
It could be because your Docker image, is it able to communicate with the outside world?
In the sense, it is able to access these port numbers and these things.
No, no, no. As in, can it send? See, your application is sending a request, right?
Oh, okay. So I think okay. Let me just remove all these parameters as of now, and let us check it over here. If it yeah, it is able to send it, but it is unprocessable entity.
It's a 422 error. I've never seen that one before. 422.
Same. I am a screenshot. I'm taking a screenshot. Seriously, first time I'm seeing this.
Okay. Neither I don't know about this 422 error code. Indicates that the server understand the content type of the request entity, and the syntax of the request entity is correct, but it is labeled content instructions.
Semantic errors in the request, no?
Ah,
So that usually these requests are done by the application and like
oh, now it's working.
uh,
I don't know why.
classic coding moment. It it doesn't
Sorry, I
know.
missed the
how-
fun
how-
because a monkey just stole something from me. But what did I miss?
Monkey just stole something from you. What? Where are you?
uh,
Like,
So what happened? What was the error?
I mean, I didn't change anything. I just rerun and it worked.
yeah. So
Oh,
we are
okay.
we are in this situation that some code doesn't work. We do not know why. Now the code works. We do not know why.
Right, right.
I mean,
Okay.
the thing is, I haven't changed anything. So I don't know why it worked. Earlier, why it was failing, and now it have worked. So it's asking for the confirmation. So maybe I should use the prompt that I was earlier using.
So did monkey actually steal something?
Yeah, yeah, it did. It just, I just can't believe it. He was so quiet. He came literally right next to me and then stole something from me.
My God.
Was it like a
What
food
did he
item
take?
or something?
What did he?
Oh, now it have placed order.
Okay, fantastic. I think today's that's it for today's session, isn't it? To just circle back on uh, Anand, you were earlier a little bit confused about
Bash, yeah, yeah,
the
small.
bash thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I'll try and attempt to clear that up for you. Um, just give me 1 second here. Uh, is it-
And also, if you could just mention was why do we use a Docker explained in an earlier session, and I can go back and look it up. Then I just don't get the concept of Docker.
okay. So where is my in my okay, there we go. Right. So yeah, I'll explain why what the use case for Docker is. So at the moment, this is your Windows machine, okay? And uh, how do you interact with this Windows machine?
Like
So
uh,
it's just a big
UI and interface.
yeah, it's just a big steel box, right? So you got two ways to interact with it, right?
Okay, so this will remain the same, Carlton, for Mac as well. The Mac WSL Docker and
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, WSL is not there in Mac, but it
okay,
has.
okay, okay.
But
This
you
this
know,
this gray this gray area will go off.
yeah.
Okay.
So, um, so you can interact either using the GUI with your machine, or you can interact using a terminal, right? Either one of these two things. So when you open up a terminal inside your Windows, right, the next thing is the question is, so you have something else inside your Windows. In this situation, it's a virtual machine called WSL, okay, Windows for Subsystem for Linux, it's called. So it's effectively another computer, a fully fledged computer. But the only difference is, instead of it being physical, it's sharing the resources that are on the physical machine with your Windows operating system. Okay, so effectively there are two operating systems running now inside your machine. WSL just happens to be inside the Windows environment. Okay, but it's still a virtual machine effectively. Okay, so far you're with me, right?
Yes, 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 God.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
So the next question is, how do you interact with the WSL?
By by reaching out through command line prompt
Yeah.
or connecting
So
via.
there is only one way to interact with WSL at the moment. Uh, Soon they will introduce something called WSL-G, but we'll not worry about that for now. But at the moment, there is only one way to interact with WSL, and that is to actually use a terminal. Okay. So this terminal will give you access to all the programs that are running inside your WSL. So when you run VS Code, or when you run a server or any kind of application, the only way to interact with it is via this terminal, or any services that it provides will be exposed. Okay, I'll put a little hole here. Okay, so services that you run. Okay, so now, for example, we were using the browser, right? But that browser is sitting in our Windows machine, correct? Actually, I shouldn't
Yep,
use
yep.
green color. I should probably use red color here. Okay. So you have a browser sitting inside your Windows machine. The only reason it's able to read these um services from inside your WSL is because a port has been opened up, which is over here. Okay. And then you're in your browser, you put the URL. You say localhost. Okay. And then you say 8000 or something like this, right? So this local host is mapped to your WSL uh, virtual machine inside. Okay, and then on port 8000, it is able to interact with the application because you've told the application use port 8000. So that's why in the beginning, when we were demonstrating the program on the browser and it's interacting with WSL, it was able to run. Okay, so far you're with me, right?
Yes, 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 yes.
Okay. So now the next thing is, we now packaged our application. Instead of being on WSL, we packaged it inside a Docker image. So you can see this orange thing here, right? That's the application. Oops, that's the. So this is the application that we created, TDS Hello. Yeah,
Okay.
it's
Hmm.
an image inside Docker. It's a very lightweight image because it only contains the absolute bare bones essential that we require.
Hmm.
And Docker, I won't explain the technology of Docker right now, but basically it takes the kernel from WSL in order to give the appearance that this is running inside its own virtual machine, but it's not. Okay.
Kind of image.
Yeah. So it takes the resources from WSL, but it isolates this TDS Hello within an environment. So it makes it seem like it's a virtual machine. So for our purposes, okay, because we are not going to give you an exam on this, we'll just pretend for now that Docker images are also virtual images. Okay. I mean, sorry, virtual machines, but they are not. Okay. So don't go out there and say this is a virtual machine. It's not. But for our understanding purposes, you just think of it as another small, tiny, super efficient virtual machine. Okay. So when you are in the terminal, and Jivraj was showing you the terminal, so he was showing you this, right? So imagine this is the terminal he's operating inside, which was in VS Code, but that VS Code was actually using the WSL's terminal. Okay. Now he then typed a command saying
Bash.
bash on here, right? So what that does is it opens up another terminal. Okay, and that's the bash terminal. Okay, but this bash terminal actually, so if I actually change the colors, this bash terminal is actually inside this image.
Okay. Okay.
So it comes back to that same question I was asking: how do you interact with the virtual machine sitting inside Windows WSL? You open up a terminal, right? So
Yes.
how do you interact with the TDS Hello virtual machine? You open up another terminal. So that's why the prompt changed to in order to show you which machine you're interacting with. So when you were in WSL, it was showing you a particular prompt that said Jivraj or something like that, right? But when you opened up the Docker image, it gave you a completely different prompt because you're actually interacting with a completely different machine. So although the window was the same, the changing of the prompt gave you the clue that you're actually interacting with a completely different machine. So does that, did you
Yes,
understand now?
yes. Uh, uh, the scripts I can interpret
Yeah,
uh, whatever is necessary. So what I understood was like the best thing which he wrote in the CLI
yeah,
was referring to the bare bone image of the WSLG, which
yes.
is inside the Docker kind of instance which we are using. Like Docker basically is an instance of what you call the mm, uh, the instance of, for example, what we call it as uh,
For now, we can pretend that
virtual
Docker,
environment kind
yeah,
of thing.
correct.
Because like I have done Docker a long time back when Beanstalk, like Amazon AWS was launched.
Yes.
So that like I just had a hint of CloudFront and all those things,
Okay.
but haven't used it because it was just uh, so I usually get confused between these two things.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But basically, it's a virtual machine sitting inside a virtual machine sitting inside a virtual machine.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Got it. That
And
explains.
the terminal is how we interact with these
Mhm.
virtual machines. And when the prompt changes, it gives you clues you into the fact that you are operating in a different terminal. Now, there is a formal way to find out. You can actually ask in terminal itself. There's a command you can give to tell you which machine you're running. So that also is possible, but that's not necessary for us at this stage, because that's getting deep into understanding Linux and things of that sort. But that's not necessary. Um, so coming back to, someone was asking what the use case for Docker is, right? So the use case for Docker is, if you look at these windows, these boxes I've drawn. Windows takes a whole machine to run on, right? I mean, this takes a lot of resources. WSL is takes a lot less resources and doesn't take as much, but still takes quite a lot of resources because it's a full-fledged operating system. Whereas this TDS Hello, I don't know how many megabytes it was, but it was, I think, maybe no more than say 80 megabytes. Okay, I'm being very generous here. It's probably much less than that. Okay, that's all it takes. It takes 80 megabytes. This Docker image. And of course, it has to run inside a Docker engine, which will be sitting on a server. But the key thing to remember is you can have, whoops, you can have literally thousands, no, not hundreds, thousands. You can literally have thousands of independent Docker images running inside your machine. Whereas you can't have 1,000 virtual machines running inside your machine.
How do we like Jivraj started the Docker images, but how do you like he exited the Docker image as well, but it was still there. How do you remove it? Like it was
Ah,
not in the
so there are some. So there is a list of commands. If you go to week 2 of the tools in data science, on there are a list of commands which tell you how to start a Docker image, stop a Docker image, and how you can remove them as well, I think. But there are some few basic commands that are there that you can use in order to manage your images.
but Docker images by themselves are relatively safe, right? They are just like virtual environments.
Yeah, they're relatively safe. That's why we use them, because you can also use them to deploy applications anywhere you want. So the beauty is, now this Docker image, once he pushes it to Podman, any one of you can download it and use it, and you don't even have to worry about what the dependencies are, what the system it was created on. You don't have to worry if it's Windows, Mac, Linux. Nothing matters, because why? It's fully self-contained, and you're able to run the application. So this is the use case of Docker. You as a developer don't have to worry what your customer is running. what environment, what machine they're running. You just give the Docker image tag, what tag they have to look for. They download it on their system and they deploy the application. It's the perfect way to deploy applications at scale. And that's the use case of Docker. So that's it in a nutshell, unless you have some other questions.
Thanks. So Docker would be used by multiple developers working together, not by the at the user end, right? Only at
Yeah, I
the
mean, at the user end also you can see a use case for it. So let's say, for example, you have got a client who you want to create a solution for them. You can create your solution. You can send them the details of how to get Docker on their the Docker image running on their system, and then they can deploy and run it without any problems, right? So that's possible. They don't have to you don't have to create a web server in order to run some application for them. The use cases are much more for Docker in that sense. So if, say, for example, it's a small supermarket and they want to run an application, but you don't want to recreate an application for each and every supermarket depending on their equipment, right? This person is using some 5-year-old equipment, that person is using some MacBook, the other person is using a Linux machine for an old system. It doesn't matter at all. You just get the Docker image on their system and it just works. That's the beauty of it, right? Um, there is no difficulty in running the application, because you're completely insulated from the difficulties of what their system is. Of course, some resources it will use, but it's very minimal compared to a full-fledged applications that are traditionally built
But
applications.
it would matter, right? That if the CPU's the virtualization is enabled or not.
It depends on the kind of applications you're building, right? But we have, in theory, we have built a very powerful application just now. I know it doesn't look very powerful, but actually it is fairly powerful application, but it uses very little resources, right?
so the application that was built today, what would be shared with me? So, for example, Jivraj has built. What would
Yeah.
he share with me so that I can, use it on my system using Docker? How would that work?
Yeah. So two things are required. First, you need to be able to run Docker itself, the green box that I've shown you. Okay. So that should be on your system. And then all you have to do is pull the image from the repo. So your client would just need to know what repo to use.
Can we access Docker Hub using Podman?
I believe so, because they're meant to be compatible with each other. But sometimes there are some difficulties searching for images from Podman, but I don't know what the reasons are. But they are supposed to be interactable with each other. Podman is just supposed to be an open source version of Docker side kind of thing. Because I don't know if you're aware, but Docker has gone to a paid model, right?
Seriously. Okay, Docker is no longer open source.
It's riding in that quasi zone where it's hard to say it is fully open source or not, because it's a bit like
No, it's almost like Red Hat or something.
yeah, it's becoming more like they're using the Red Hat model, where if you actually want to use it properly, then you have to pay for the certain functionality. But that's completely then makes it not open source, right, in the truest sense of the word.
As long as core features are free, that is fine.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing. They control the deployment today. Say if your business depends on Docker, right, and if you are building to scale on that, and tomorrow if they change the terms, this is the problem, right? Then you're kind of stuck, right?
Yeah, then we are stuck.
Yeah. So this is the pain point. That's why. So for now, you're just a student and you're doing small things. It's okay, but you don't want to do small things forever, right? You want to grow your business, or if you want a consultancy firm that is doing IT services, at some point you will be very invested in whatever technology you decide to deploy. So if you go into a paid or partially paid solution now, there is no telling when they change the terms and conditions. But then you're fully integrated into the system. It's difficult to walk away from it. This is the key problem, right? So that's where you have to make a choice. Okay, I think that covers everything that we needed to cover for today. So, um, right, if there are no more questions, we'll end this meeting. I hope it was useful for you guys and you got a sense of the workflow of how to create an application, deploy it so that it's able to use a service like a HTTP server, and then package it into Docker and to um, be able to use it anywhere. And the elements that are shown here is effectively what gets put into project. So all the things you learn today is exactly what you'll end up doing in project, but on a much larger scale, and your project will have to be robust against errors. So your logic, you'll have to code a bit more carefully than we did today. um, so that's it for today. Okay.
Thank you. Very helpful. Now at least I'll try attempting the project. I was thinking whether I should be
Yeah,
trying.
yeah, you should really get started on it early. Okay,
Yeah.
but the good news is now you know the work bits that go together. Rest is all just getting the bugs are cleared out like we were doing later today. So just getting your code very robust. There are some few extra things we need to show you actually, but that we will show you in some in the next session that comes up, because we'll start with the project sessions. And in these project sessions, we will show you something a bit advanced. So project will necessarily require you to create um, code using LLM. So in other words, what happens is you tell LLM the issue you're uh, trying to solve. LLM has to create the code. Then you have to run the code. If the code creates error, remember this is all happening dynamically. Okay, you are not involved in anything at all. This is all automatically happening. If the code generates an error while running, you put it in a feedback loop where you take the code as the context and the error code and the error, and you send it back to the LLM to correct its own mistakes. And then once it runs successfully, it is hopefully giving you the results that project is requiring you to produce. So how do you produce this intelligent self-writing program is one aspect that we have not shown you yet. But before we can show you that, we needed to show you these things, because so at least you have a ground foundation on how to do function calling and do simple tasks using LLMs in your application.
That will be great. Thank you. Right now, I can imagine myself getting into an infinite loop because that's what happened now. So
Yeah.
if the error keeps on coming and we keep on feeding it into the system to understand. And I don't know. I hope that won't be the case for the project. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are ways to mitigate all those things. Okay, there are techniques and tips we will share with you how to do it. We'll build up. In fact, what we'll do is we will build a project scaffold together, and you will be able to then, based on that, you'll be able to build your project.
Great. Thanks. If while sending the calendar invites, if it can be mentioned, I don't know if it's already mentioned. Sorry, but that this is the topic for this session, then that would be great.
Yeah.
Very helpful, sir.
Typically, we put that in the emails, but
Okay. That
yeah, we will put that in the calendar as well.
email should be fine. So if
Yeah,
it's already there, yeah.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, thanks
Okay.
everyone.
So Carlton, last question,
Mhm.
not related to this one. It's just a generic question which I wanted to ask. There are few not for everything I should be consulting you guys, because you guys are also teaching these things, and like there is one flow which shouldn't be broken. So what I'm asking is, for kind of groundwork to be done by me, what are all the things, because I have gone through the GA2, I was able to do some of them, but like kind of half of kind of situation is over there. So in order to build the fence around the current GA3, what are the topics which I should like go or have a flavor of that? If that like if that can be answered.
Uh, I mean, all the things we demonstrated today are what you will use in GA3. I mean, there is
Mhm.
a little bit of if you there was a session I had done, I think on Tuesday, and there I talked about the basics of GPT LLM calls. I don't know if you were present
Yeah,
in.
yeah. I'm attending like from next week. Uh, from next week, my offices are like I will be like the people reporting to me will be there in the office. So it's like
Okay,
I also needs to be there. So
sure, sure.
I I,
Um,
I was able to avoid till this time, but like now I have to be there. So
yeah.
till the time, like the thing is like till the time I am attending each and every session of yours.
Yeah, so the session on Tuesday covered how to make LLM calls and the structure of the body, and also in that I talked a little bit about tokens, and I think in a later session they talked about embeddings. So
Mm-hmm.
tokens, embeddings, how to do image URI encoding. No, actually, was that required in?
Like he has demonstrated that the image
Yeah,
encoding where the dot product of the two
yes, yes.
those things
So
yeah.
yeah, so all these sorts of things are what's generally required in GA3. So you should be able to answer most, if not all, the questions that are.
Okay. Thank you. And with support of you, I think we can
Yeah,
move forward.
the only thing we haven't dealt with in depth was something called prompt engineering, but there's a very good video on that on the site itself, right? So just watch that, and there's some text also there which is worth reading
Mm.
about prompt engineering. So just go through prompt engineering. We haven't dwelt on it extensively, but if you just read up that material, there is one question that deals with prompt engineering. I think it's the 10th question or something, the last question, where you have to get the LLM to say yes. So
Yes, Carlton. I came back here for asking about that thing only.
yeah.
Carlton, I've been trying to get it to say yes for the last 2 hours now,
Hmm.
but it is not willing to discuss anything.
Yeah.
Simply asked it a question whether it is an AI or not, and it replied, "I'm not inclined to discuss that also."
Hmm. Did you try looking on past discourse posts
No,
on this?
Carlton. I mean, I've been trying to just do it myself. I'm not even
Okay.
trying to get GPT to help me.
Right. Right. So, yeah, I mean, what can I say? It's you got to. I can't say anything other than you have to use prompt engineering because that's effectively a prompt engineering exercise.
So, what did you say that you're not using GPT for something? Uh,
Is the question for me or?
no, for Atm Viswas or whoever it was.
Biswal, sorry, can you repeat the question?
So, what were you saying about not using GPT for certain tasks?
Not certain task. In the last question, the thing that we have to essentially do is they have given us an AI model which have been put under the restriction that it cannot in any condition say yes, and we as a prompt engineer are testing that in
Okay.
this hypothetical situation. We need to give it a prompt that somehow forces it or finesses it to just say yes.
Yeah, I mean it's something that we asked in ROE, but there were several successful attempts. Right, I'll end the recording now.